The US were able to tie against Brazil 1-1 with a goal coming from Christian Pulisic and a goal coming from Rodrigo for Brazil. And I'm not going to lie, I thought the US were going to get bent over against Brazil after witnessing the US lose to Colombia 5-1 and then having Brazil beat Mexico with their B team, by the way. I'm like, oh my god, the fact that Brazil are going to go up against the US with Vinicius, with Rodrigo, with most of their A players, this game should have ended 4-0 or maybe even 5-0. But the US did not allow that to happen. The US went up against Brazil and they said, okay, we screwed up big time against Colombia. We have to fix something, because if we want to go out there and do something great in this Copa America that will be hosted in our country, we have to deliver against these teams. We have to show up. We cannot be losing 4-0 or 5-0. At the very bare minimum, you should be only tying against these South American teams, regardless whether it's Argentina, Colombia, or Brazil. The US have to show up. Why? That is because they have the capacity to do so. With the players that they have, like Gio Reyna, Joel Scally, Christian Pulisic, Timothy Weah, Weston McKennie, Tyler Adams, you have so much technical power, there should be no excuses at all for you guys to be losing in a very embarrassing way. And the US understood that, which is the reason why when Brazil came in with their first goal, the US did not let their guard down. They continued to push, they continued to attack. Yes, the US made some mistakes at the back, and we thought once again that Brazil were going to win 3-0 or maybe even 4-0, but the US responded and they came in with a lot of courage. And that is the only thing we ask for, because everything else would fall into place. You have the technical power. These players know how to pass, they know how to shoot, they know how to score goals. You just need to believe that you can overcome the opponent. Whether it's Brazil, Uruguay, Chile, Colombia, it does not matter. So I hope that this is a foundation for the US and to carry this momentum into the Copa America, because every team is going to be like that. They're going to be facing Bolivia in their first game, and then Panama, and then Uruguay. They're all going to be tough. Why? That is because they're all from South America. Like, South America is a tough place to be in, and the US need to show aggressiveness. They need to press well. They need to be very concentrated at the back, make sure that no mistakes or cheap goals are given. That is the way. And so what we're going to be doing in this video is talk about what happened in this game, because man, let me tell you, in those last 10 to 15 minutes, it was very entertaining. Both teams wanted a win. Brazil also had to show up. They were not acting like they did not need to win this match. They wanted to win this match because of how many Brazilian fans were there. So they had to show some sort of respect. And so moving on towards the 4th minute of the game, and immediately the US were so close to scoring. Musa hits the bar after 2 crosses that were being attempted by Gio Reyna and Timothy Weah. Weston McKennie eventually got the ball. He places it to Musa, and Musa takes a shot, and it was almost a goal. We almost made it 1-0 before the 5th minute. Now later in the game, we started to see Musa play much more as a 6, and I'm not going to lie, he looked very nervous. He was losing some balls. He gave a chance to Vinicius, by the way. He lost the ball. He like misplaced a pass. Vinicius eventually got the ball, and Brazil almost made it 1-0 before the 7th minute. And I'm like, really? Could this really be a good idea to have Musa as a 6, Weston McKennie as the 8, and Gio Reyna as the 10? I felt like the reason why we were making so many mistakes at the back was because they had Vinicius and Rodrigo in front of them, and that is a lot to think about. On the 16th minute, we saw Vinicius run down the flank, very similar to what he did during his Champions League run. He made a fool out of Chris Richards. He basically did like a body feint, and the ball went through his legs, and then he was running down the left flank, and almost again Brazil made it 1-0, but it was just not there yet. On the 17th minute, Turner kicks the ball straight to one of the Brazilian players. The US were standing so bad, none of the players were ready to receive the ball from Matt Turner, and Rafinha gains the ball, passes it to Rodrigo, and scores the first goal. Again, there were mistakes and more mistakes and more mistakes. The US were showing that they were nervous, and that was not good. But then came the 26 minutes, because like I have said, the US responded. Many of us assumed that the US were not going to respond, but they did. They did not want to lose another match after being embarrassed by Colombia. And so we were trying to create chances, try to take shots from outside the box, and on the 26th minute, Christian Pulisic won a free kick after Joao Gomez tackles Christian Pulisic. To Brazil, it was a mess for them to have Joao Gomez starting in the pivot position. He is a player that tends to make a lot of mistakes, and Christian Pulisic knew that, which is the reason why he baited him. And so they won the free kick. We saw the US place 5 players on the wall. I believe the reason why was because they wanted to blind Alisson, which is the goalkeeper of Brazil, and so he could not really see. And then Christian Pulisic shoots the ball into the bottom left corner. It was a great free kick and very calculated by the US to really make sure that Alisson was not seeing what was going on in front of him. And so the US kept pushing. They did not let their guard down, and I was really happy. Even after all of these mistakes that they made in the first 20 minutes, even after Brazil scored the first goal, the US wanted to show up. And let me tell you guys, it's okay to make mistakes. It's completely fine. That is football. Football is a game of mistakes. What matters is once you do make that mistake, can you come back from that? Can you respond? Can you come back within these 90 minutes? And the US did. This is the reason why in the first half we saw Brazil have a total of 8 shots, 4 shots off target and 4 shots on target, while the US had 5 shots on target and 1 shot off target. You can tell that the US were being much more precise with their shots. And if you look at the bottom, you can see that Brazil had more shots inside the box while the US had more shots outside the box, and that was basically the game plan for the US. There's a reason why they had Musa and Gio Reyna in the midfield. They were there to be runners, to run through the middle, and to progress the ball to eventually find those long shots. They did not have the time, and Greg Berhalter knew this, but they did not have the time to build up play, to pass the ball down the right flank, make it cross into the box. That was not going to be their game plan. There was no way, because Brazil were just too good defensively, and that is why they took their chances from outside the box. And Musa, McKennie, Christian Pulisic, Timothy Weah were taking their chances. So moving on to the second half, it was all Brazil. Brazil maintained 63% of the possession. The US sat back just a little. They were being a little more conservative, I would say. And well, in the first 20 minutes of the second half, we saw that Brazil had a total of 4 shots, 3 off target and 1 on target. The US had none. As you can see here, it was all zeros. So Greg knew he needed to change something. What was important for him was to make sure that Brazil did not score in the first 15 to 20 minutes of the second half, and then that is where the changes came in. On the 65th minute, we saw Johnny come in for Gio Reyna, Balogun come in for Pepe, and then as for Brazil, they had Pereira come in for Paqueta, Savio coming in for Rafinha, and Endrick coming in for Bruno. I was really happy to see Johnny come into this game because in the previous match against Colombia, he had a very flat performance, and in this match against Brazil, he made it up. 3 minutes later, on the 68th minute, we saw Weston McKennie. I believe that was a player that passed it to Christian Pulisic, but Christian Pulisic ended up receiving the ball, almost made it 2-1. That was supposed to be our moment, but it remained 1-1. Now for a moment there, the US were dropping their guard. Like I've said, no team can play perfect. Of course, you are going to be making mistakes. Sometimes you do lose focus, but can you make up for it? Like for example, we saw a lack of check-in coming from Scully because Timothy Weah had the ball. Scully was supposed to be making that overlapping run, but he did not make that run. And then Greg Berhalter was mad and he's like, what the heck? What was that? Like he made that pass to you and the ball just ended up going out and you did not make the overlapping run. You were supposed to check in to go on to the counter, and Scully did not do that. And to Brazil, this was amazing. They were looking at the US and saying they are nervous. But then a few minutes later, Scully was defending against Vinicius very well. Vinicius did everything this year in 2024, but Scully in those last 20 minutes when it mattered, he defended Vinicius and kept him quiet, and that was amazing. I'm like, dude, the way for you to show up after the absence of Dest, I don't even want to see Dest anymore because of how well defensively Scully is. He even shut down Luis Diaz pretty well up until the 75th minute. And I'm like, if you can continue to do this and shut down players like Luis Diaz or Vinicius Jr., we want you in our starting 11, not Dest, because imagine if this was Dest. Imagine if Dest was in the 11. Can you imagine Dest versus Vinicius? Trust me, I have seen Dest versus Vinicius before. I'm a Barcelona fan. I have seen Dest represent Barcelona and produce disaster classes on the right flank against Vinicius. There was no way he was going to be able to handle this pressure today against Brazil. So Scully, to me, was one of our best players. On the 74th minute, we saw an amazing save from Turner. Rodrigo received the ball down the left flank. He tries to go through Chris Richards, which he successfully does. Shoots the ball straight to Matt Turner, and Matt Turner stops the ball with his left hand to continue the game on a 1-1 scoreline. On the 75th minute, Greg Berhalter made more changes. Tyler Adams and Brendan Aronson came in for Yunus Musa and Timothy Weah, and from there, it was just all chaos, I would say. It was all complete chaos. Brazil were countering, the US were countering. We did not know who was going to end up scoring first. It was literally up to Brazil or the US to score the goal first. There was no favorites in this game by this point. And so in the end, I'm very happy with this performance. It was not the perfect game, but I believe that one of the biggest takeaways that we can learn today is that the back line of the US is very composed. I saw the US get pressured at the back from Vinicius, from Rodrigo, from many of the players, and the US were passing the ball very well. It looked smooth, it looked well practiced. You can tell that they have really been learning how they were going to be moving up away from Brazil, and it worked. Christian Pulisic also is now the 3rd US player to score against 4 different CONMEBOL teams, which is Bolivia, Chile, Venezuela, and Brazil. The other 2 goal scorers were Clem Dempsey and London Donovan. And so that is it. That is going to be wrapping up today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one.